Week 24. I'm Peggy Kay, and today there are some really great updates for YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, and a whole lot more. The first thing I wanted to mention, though, is that this is the 1-year anniversary for my doing this weekly live stream. And thank you so much for joining me live and watching. I like to think I've gotten a little bit better at this over the past year. The next thing is that part of my goal of doing this was to learn different live streaming platforms and write it up. So now I'm at the write it up stage. I've got to do that. So many things. All right. The other thing I want to mention today is that this is a week of anniversaries. The first thing is that Google Plus for personal accounts shut down 5 years ago this week. I know I met some of you first over on Google Plus, and it's great to see you here. But really, the people that I engaged with there have kind of scattered across the internet. Some people aren't even using social media anymore. I wrote up some of my thoughts and where I think social media may be going on my blog. There's a link to my blog in the video description. And I think to sum it all up, I don't think there's going to be a new everything platform where everybody is. I think it's kind of natural that people have scattered to different platforms and depending on their interests and their most important networks. But I really feel like federation could be part of the future. So Instagram Threads now federates with Mastodon, halfway federates. So you can follow on Mastodon, but you can't follow Mastodon accounts on Threads yet. But I think that sort of thing really, it would be nice if that were the future, where you could just make a profile where you feel most like home, and then people could follow you from other places if they wanted to. Because right now I have accounts on probably a dozen different platforms, most of which I'm not actively using, but it's hard to know where to be when people are so scattered. I have been using Threads a lot more, so if you are using Threads, find me there. There's actually a link on my blog to my Threads account. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this week is the 20th anniversary of Gmail. I don't know how many of you were actually using Gmail back then, but it was a big deal. And this is the original announcement from Google. For some reason, they made it on April 1st, which made people think that maybe it was a joke. But if you were using email before Gmail launched, there were two big problems. The first is that you got very little storage space. So it might have just been 10 megabytes of storage space or something. So if you got a lot of messages, you had to delete them frequently. Otherwise, your storage would fill up and you'd stop receiving messages. The other problem is that if you had a lot of messages, it was really hard to find the old messages because search wasn't very good. And here we have Google. It's a search company. Gmail search was one of their big improvements. And you got 1 gigabyte of storage, which is really, really huge. Google says that is the equivalent of 500,000 pages of email, which sounds crazy, but I set up my Gmail account way back then, and it has way more than a gigabyte worth of messages stored there. But it's great because I can use the search and find it. And reading about this, I really wanted to note something that was written in The Verge. I don't know why that is showing cut off like that. So one of the things that I'm seeing on The Verge that really resonated with me is that um, to change this. Okay. So the Verge article said Gmail is like a passport for the internet. Whenever I create a new account for a site or service, it's tied to my Gmail. Often it also doubles as my username. My Gmail is my ticket to all my apps, healthcare, taxes, bank account, my entire digital life. If I get locked out of anything, I go to my Gmail to get back in. I may not be excited to open up Gmail anymore, but my Gmail password is still the most important one in my life. So that is actually something that really resonates with me. If I lost access to my Gmail, that would mean losing access to lots of other accounts as well. Again, let me beat the drum for Google account security. Set recovery options, set up two-step verification, make it as secure as you can because it's the gateway to your whole account. Jolyn says, I still have my very first Gmail from Google in June of 2004. Wow, you were right at the cutting edge. One of the things that was different about Gmail is that when they started out, you had to get an invitation to join. You couldn't just sign up for an account. So it was really a big deal to get an invite. I didn't get my account set up until I think it was December of 2004 when I finally found an invite from someone. So you must have known the right people. There were also people, I think, selling invites. It was a really popular thing. So you could do it. I want to say hi to Jolyn and Eileen and Craig who are in the chat. It's really great to see you all. Thank you for the happy anniversary wishes. The year flies by really fast, it turns out. So that was the big anniversaries I wanted to talk about. One of the things that is incredible to think about is how many other platforms, not just Google, have come and gone in the past 20 years. And Gmail has had a lot of staying power because it's a useful tool. I think you can say a lot of things, but people wouldn't use it, wouldn't have adopted it so broadly if it wasn't useful. So I'm going to start out with a few really quick YouTube announcements. Let me switch. So the first one I wanted to mention really quickly is that YouTube now lets you live stream in HDR. Now, this is not going to affect most live streamers because HDR requires a compatible camera and you have to use OBS or another way of encoding the stream, but it's supposed to show crisper whites, inkier blacks, brighter colors. And if you have a device that can view HDR, you may be seeing more HDR live streams on YouTube. The next update is a kind of a fun one where if you click the emoji reactions in the live chat, hearts or smileys or celebrations, now there's more analytics for that. So the live streamer can go in and see when exactly there were chat messages and reactions and how many of each. And if you are a live streamer and you don't like the emoji reactions, you can turn those off in the live stream settings in Live Control Room in YouTube Analytics. I'm sorry, YouTube Studio. And then the third update for YouTube, again, is YouTube Analytics will now let you filter the stats about impressions between new viewers and returning viewers. And this is important because if you look at impressions overall, it gives you one big number, and then it gives you an impressions click-through rate. And you want the click-through rate to be higher, but it's really useful to know if there's a different click-through rate for new viewers and returning viewers, because you might be appealing to different audiences. So that's a new stat in YouTube Analytics, which you can access through YouTube Studio. I think this might just be on desktop. So I wanted to shift gears just a little bit and first close a few tabs. All right. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about today in more detail is the announcement from Meta about their approach to labeling AI-generated content and manipulated media. Of course, all the platforms have to decide how they're going to deal with this. YouTube, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, requires that you label content that is sort of fabricated if it looks realistic. Facebook is sort of going the same way. They have a new Made with AI label. These are the takeaway messages. So the first thing that they said is that they are going to label more media rather than removing it, which is an interesting choice. So previously, if the media was manipulated, they might just take it down if it looked realistic. Now they're going to stick a label on it. There is going to be, or maybe is, a new setting for users where you can indicate that your realistic looking content was made with AI. It will be really interesting to see, first of all, what percentage of users actually label their content. I feel like the users who are most likely to use realistic images that try to fool people, they're the least likely to actually put a label on it. So the question is, how well is Meta going to enforce this? And this new policy applies on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. So this is across Meta. This is the big problem. If the content looks super realistic, enough to fool people, there's going to be people who decide not to label it because they're trying to fool people. So we shall see what happens. I think one of the things that I have frequently noticed is that people want to be fooled. Maybe that's not the best way to put it. People like obviously fake content if it is if it's showing something that they agree with. So we saw this a couple of weeks ago when there were these like really, really weird Jesus made out of shrimp images that are getting tons of responses and likes from real people on Facebook. And I suspect that it's not that people are going, ooh, a Jesus made of shrimp. I like that. Instead, it's like, oh, amen, Jesus. I like it. It's the vibe. And so they agree with that. They don't care. People don't care that it's fake if it actually is something they agree with. So I think that's the biggest problem that these platforms have to deal with, is that people don't necessarily care. Uh, I was just going to mention that there is a whole policy about misinformation on Facebook. Um, their manipulated media policy uh, says that they do remove videos if the video has been edited or synthesized beyond adjustments for clarity or quality in ways that are not apparent to an average person, or and the video is the product of artificial intelligence or machine learning. This seems weird to me. Why would they care how the video was made if it's manipulated using something other than artificial intelligence or machine learning? It can be just as deceptive. So I don't quite understand the distinction they're making there. It's not that AI is worse, it's that AI is easier to generate this content, but manipulated is manipulated. So again, we'll see how this is enforced. And they say they will add a label to content that may mislead if it doesn't otherwise violate the community standards. So we'll see. A couple other, I'm taking a long time. A couple other things I wanted to mention. There is a new post from Instagram highlighting some features in stories that you may not be familiar with. And they announced a new sticker you can put in your stories. That's a notification sticker. If people click it, they get a little pop-up with their notification setting. You can use that to remind people to turn on their notifications if you're going to announce something big and important. There are some other features. If you use stories, you should definitely check this out. You can get the links from my site, and I just want to quickly throw up a QR code here. You can subscribe to my weekly newsletter that comes out on Saturdays. This QR code should link to it, and there are links to all of this week's updates and tips. You can also access that on my blog post, which is in the video description. Just to point out, Threads by Instagram is instituting a new bonus program. This requires people to be posting supposedly their own original text content on Threads. The bonus is going to depend on popularity, though. So, like a lot of other monetization programs that depend on popularity, I think this does encourage not ideal behavior. So, Threads is a thing. I actually like Threads a lot, mostly. So we'll see how that goes when they start encouraging people to post with this setting. I want to say hi to everyone in the live chat. I haven't been doing that. Nina says happy birthday. Thank you very much, Nina. Yeah, I didn't mention that today is my actual birthday as well. So I'm celebrating everything. All right. Craig says, my computer can't do HDR. Yeah, I don't think my computer can either, although my phone can. I think a lot of these graphics things you can probably see on your phone, although I'm not sure how that actually makes much of a difference on a small screen. And I see folks have been talking about whether they've been deleting their email messages. I save everything. Jillian says, I delete a lot, but there are a few that are special and savable. E- Except for store or marketing newsletter kind of things, I save pretty much everything. So there's lots of storage, a lot more than a gigabyte now. And I figure, why not save it? I don't need to save the space, and you never know. I don't need the email that says that I can get a real discount at Old Navy on t-shirts or something. But other messages, I save them because you never know. Occasionally, I do go back and look at old messages. The other interesting thing that I wanted to share with you is a discussion happening over on Threads. And this was a post by Adam Mosseri, who's the head of Instagram and Threads. And he wrote something that was sort of provocative. He said, follower counts matter less than view and like counts. And I understand why people focus so much on follower counts. They're prominent and they're easy to find. But if you actually want to get a sense of how relevant an account is, look how many likes they get per post and how many views per reel instead. And I think if you step back, sure, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people will follow, subscribe to an account. They're not necessarily that interested, or maybe they were interested 5 years ago, but they're not so interested now. It's kind of sad to think that people are subscribed but not interested, but that's the hard truth. And then in the discussion, he followed up with something that I think, again, is sort of a hard truth, where he says, nobody reaches all of their followers when they post, primarily for reasons. One, a lot of your followers won't open the app that day. And two, those who do log in have far more posts to see than they have time to spend, and they don't scroll down far enough to get to every post. And he says, before some of you say the algorithm is the culprit, understand that ranking and recommendations increase the amount of posts people get to, and therefore the amount of reach to go around more than anything else we've done. This is really obviously a point of contention when creators post and it feels like they're not getting the views, the likes, the comments because the people who are interested aren't seeing it. With an algorithmic feed, you aren't going to actually see all of the posts from people you follow. Instead, it's going to show you what the platform thinks you're interested in. And that's actually probably making most people happy. I think the hard thing, though, is that Instagram definitely makes it difficult to find your following feed. So even if you did want to just see posts from the people who you follow, it's not obvious where to do that. And I think that is part of the frustration, is that it defaults to the algorithmic feed and there's no way to know what's happening. And the idea is, well, if people went to the feed where just the accounts they're following, they get more views. It's hard to know if that's true or not, but it is painful to post and have people not watch. I want to give a big shout out to Eileen for the super chat. Thank you so much. I will buy myself a drink. I really appreciate you guys, and I like spending my birthday morning here. And Craig gave me a cake. I like cake. Thank you. So I have a few other things I wanted to mention really quickly. I have a lot of things this week, I don't know. I don't know why. Okay, over on StreamYard, if you're using StreamYard for live streaming, they have a couple new AI-based features. They have an AI thumbnail generator that makes, good-looking thumbnails from your content in their templates. They also have an AI tool to convert your recording into shorts and reels. This is really what a lot of places are offering now, which is pretty cool. Over on WordPress just announced their new version, 6.5 Regina. All of their versions are named after jazz performers. They have a couple of neat updates there. Let me make sure this is showing. Okay. So they have a new font library that lets you install, remove, and activate local and Google fonts across your site for any block theme. This makes it easier to manage. And Google Fonts has a lot of nice free fonts. I'll just put a plug-in. Since I use Blogger, you can add Google Fonts to your Blogger blog as well. And there's revision history for your templates. There's some background and shadow tools, let you manipulate those images for your theme. There are new data views where you can find information for your pages, templates, patterns, and template parts. Smoother drag and drop. And something that I think is really useful is improved link controls. Create and manage links easily with a more intuitive link building experience and streamlined interface. So those are some nice updates in the newest version of WordPress. The other thing that they're adding is a new option to make it easier to add images from your phone. So if you want to add photos from your phone to your WordPress-based blog, there is a new option. Let's see. It says you insert an image or gallery block on your post or page, select image, and now you can select your phone as the source of the image. You use your phone to scan a QR code. You need the Jetpack app on your phone to do this, but that lets you access your photo library. Choose your images and click Add. This is a really nice and easy way. You don't actually have to manually move your photos from your phone to your computer to add them to your blog. Saves you steps. I like any feature that makes it easier to create content. So the less you have to fuss with, the better. And those were the main updates. I'm going to just take 1 second and make sure I'm covering everything that I wanted to include. Oh, the other thing I'm missing. The other thing that I thought was really interesting as a new feature let me quickly switch tabs. Patreon. So Patreon is where you can, traditionally you go there, people subscribe to you as a creator, you can give them subscriber specific content, but they're really leaning in on making Patreon a platform for community. They are adding more chat features, including the option to designate other people as moderators of your chat. And there's also going to be an option where you can have chat conversations for everyone, including people who are following you for free, or you can have chat conversations based on what subscriber tier they're using. So Patreon is trying to shift the model where your community is not on your social media, or this is social media. I don't know what this is, but this is supposed to give creators a site for their community. So there were a few other updates I'm not getting to. Please check out the link, and you can get all this week's tips and updates. 2 things to check out today. First of all, go to the Google fact check tools. You can search for anything there. There's a lot of misinformation around the eclipse. If you go there and do a search for eclipse, you'll see all the most popular conspiracy theories, and then there are fact check information for each of these from different sources, including Snopes and news sites and other things. So if you're seeing claims about the eclipse from social media users or by email, or people you meet in person, you can go to the Google fact checks tools site and actually get links to debunking information, or some of the things people spread are actually true. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this coming week is Google Cloud Next, which is Google's big conference for enterprise and business and education. There's bound to be updates related to Google Workspace, which includes Docs and Drive and Google Meet and Google Chat. So look for that. The keynote address is going to be free and live on YouTube. Again, there's a link in the description. Thank you so much for joining me today. Love all you guys. Thank you for helping me celebrate my 1-year live streaming anniversary and my birthday. So thanks so much, and I will see you next week.